during the American Revolution, we did play a vital role in securing control of the Mississippi River and the Gulf Coast during Galvez's seizure of Baton Rouge, Mobile, and Pensacola. So school children, when you were taught that the American Revolution only happened up on the East Coast, not true. It happened here. And don't forget that. That anniversary is coming up in September. When those Spanish troops encountered American troops, the flag they would have seen was the original U.S. flag of 13 stars and 13 stripes. However, after the American Revolution, as 2 states were added, the flag had to be redesigned, and throughout our late Spanish colonial period, yes, we were a foreign nation. Even after the American Revolution, Louisiana was a foreign nation. This is the flag that the Spanish troops would have encountered. The flag behind me. The 1795 U.S. flag was a flag of 15 stars and 15 stripes. It was adopted by Congress on May 1st, 1779, to represent the 2 new states of Vermont and Kentucky that joined the Union in 1791 and 1792. And it is the only U.S. flag to have that number of stars and stripes, 15 and 15, the only one. It was the second official U.S. flag after the 13 star and stripe flag that was adopted in 1777. This flag flew from July 4th, 1795 to July 4th, 1818, even though 5 more states would join the Union during that time, and they were Tennessee, Ohio, Louisiana, number 18, Indiana, and Mississippi. It was the flag in place when Louisiana became a state in April 1812, a scant 6 weeks before the start of the War of 1812, and it was used throughout that entire conflict, even here at the Battle of New Orleans. This is also the version of the famous 30-foot by 42-foot wool garrison flag made by Mrs. Mary Pickersgill for Fort McHenry. Due to increased weight during the rainstorm that accompanied the 25-hour bombardment on Fort McHenry on September 13th through 14th, 1814, it was taken down because it was literally breaking the flagpole. Wool absorbs water eventually, and this flag did. So it was replaced by the smaller storm flag that flew throughout the night. The flag was dried overnight and rehoisted in the early morning, giving Francis Scott Key the inspiration to write the lyrics of what would become our national anthem, played so beautifully by the band this morning. It now hangs in the Smithsonian Museum. The damage to that flag that's in the Smithsonian is not from the bombardment. It wasn't flying during the bombardment because of the storm. Most of that damage is because they cut souvenir pieces off. The addition of 2 stars and 2 stripes in 1795 was a very reluctant compromise, an attempt to make sure that the 2 new states didn't feel left out. However, the biggest users of flags, the merchant ships, were very unhappy with that solution. They felt that the purpose of the flag, which is as a source of identification, would be diminished as they added more and more new states to the Union. And many felt that retaining just 13 stripes for the 13 original colonies and adding new stars was a much better design plan. And a Captain Samuel Reed pioneered this idea, and It was finally enacted into law in 1818. That year, Congress proclaimed that one star for each new state would be added on the 4th of July following the state's admission to the Union, with 13 permanent stripes to represent the 13 original colonies. So our flag has evolved from that time as far as the number of stars and stripes, stars and patterns on the ensign is concerned. That's the blue part. But the number and arrangement of stripes, 8 red and 7 white, has stayed constant since 1818. Now, according to many different sources, there's really no standard version of the earlier flags, either in real life or art. If you look at paintings and everything, you're going to see the craziest number of stars and stripes and their arrangement and everything else. Numbers and patterns of stars and stripes vary throughout from the first design through subsequent early changes. For instance, on this flag, the pattern of stars could be staggered, as it's shown here, with 5 rows of 3, or it could be a circle of 15 stars. So you may see this 15-stripe flag with circle of stars as well, if you look it up. The problem was that if you didn't have a picture of the current flag, it was very hard to reproduce it. They didn't have the internet back then. So if an artist was getting ready to paint the flag, and he didn't have a flag in front of him, it was real hard to figure out what it was going to look like, especially if they were portraying it waving. And I dare say, if you ask the average person today, even our military, to draw our current flag without an example in front of them, I think it would be an almost impossible task. We see it every day, we think about it, we honor it, but could we draw it? Probably the answer is no. The current design of the ensign of our flag is thanks to an Ohio schoolboy named Robert Heft. He designed our present field of 50 stars as a social studies project at 17. And you would think, wow, that should have gotten him an A, right? He did it in 1958, before Alaska and Hawaii were added to the Union. And his teacher told him, well, it's a really good design, but we only have 48 states in the Union, so I'm only giving you a B. But Bob was a futurist. He was acknowledging that there were rumblings of pending statehood for Alaska and Hawaii. So he looked to the future of what the next flag would be, which is not what his teacher wanted. So, on the promise of his teacher to reconsider the grade if he could get Congress to adopt his design, Bob started a letter writing campaign, and he enlisted the help of an Ohio representative, and finally it was accepted by Congress in 1960, and it has been our official flag ever since. And yes, his teacher went back and changed his grade to a B. But before he passed away, Bob also designed a 51-star flag. So if we ever do get a 51st state, and Congress accepts his design, then Bob will be the only flag designer to have 2 designs